From Mondo in collaboration with legendary artist James Groman comes this stellar new soft vinyl Godzilla figure release. Slated for a March 2024 release date, this figure measures approximately 12 inches tall and 21 inches long. This figure is packed to the brim with details, and it features some amazing, gory, additional interchangeable parts. Over the last few years, as I've become more interested in Godzilla Sofubi toys and art toys in general, I've of course become familiar with James Groman's work. And while he does have quite a wide range of figures that appeal to me, I don't own anything of his at this time. But this Godzilla for me was an instant pre-order the moment it became available. I just put up some examples of previous works that he's done, and I think with this Godzilla as well, you can really see this style that is very consistent among all these different characters that he produces. Whether they're licensed characters or original concepts, they all have this very nice, unique style that I really like about his work. Based on just these few examples of prior works he's done, one common aspect of all his work seems to be the implementation of many lines and striations. I really like how textured a lot of his works are, and I think Godzilla being his latest project makes sense in his evolution as an artist. Taking a closer look at the figure itself, this thing is monstrous. Perhaps the aspect that sticks out the most are the wildly stylized proportions of this figure. This is an extremely chunky and somewhat condensed version of Godzilla. He basically has almost no torso whatsoever. It's essentially just his head, some midsection, and the rest of it is just his legs and tail. But I think it looks really great, and I really like the way that James Groman interpreted this version of Godzilla. While this is very much James Groman's own style, it certainly looks like he took inspiration mostly from the Heisei era Godzilla. But interestingly enough, these additional gory parts are actually meant to be damage from an oxygen destroyer, so I guess in a way it's original Godzilla 54? I don't know, but regardless, it is a really cool interpretation. I do like all the elements of this figure. As we take a closer look here, you'll see all the beautiful textures that are present throughout the entire figure, especially in this very dramatic lighting. It's another thing that I like a lot about this is the promotional images, the photography they did with this figure are nothing short of stunning. And taking a closer look at Godzilla's feet here in this particular shot, the leftmost toenail is chipped away. This is another element of Groman's work that I like a lot, which is sort of damaged throughout whatever character he's designed. And obviously this is much more apparent on those interchangeable parts that we'll take a closer look at. On the outer portion of the right foot and towards the tip of the tail, it looks like we have these little crustacean creatures that are also stuck to Godzilla as well, that add these little pops of green in those sections. I guess you could say these little creatures got stuck to Godzilla as it came out of the water. Another nice little detail for this figure. Now, as we take a look at the paint job here, this figure does have the general charcoal colored skin that Godzilla is known for, but I do think that the toenails, tongue, teeth, and eyes are those parts that really do pop, especially the eyes. I will say they really did give Godzilla crazy eyes in this version, in this figure format, and I like that a lot. It's got these very tiny pupils and then these outer circles that I guess are a range of reds, yellows, and oranges. It looks very fiery. And those colors are kind of similar to the teeth as well, so it has this sort of consistent coloring for those parts, and that carries out into the fingernails and toenails, but those look much more neutral and toned down compared to the mouth and eye area. The tongue is purple, it seems. I do like that color choice. I think it adds a good contrast to the rest of the face and mouth section. Taking a closer look at the dorsals, they look to be finished with a mixture of silver and gray paints, which looks nice. They do look ever so slightly metallic. I don't think they will really shine that much. Of course, there is black toward the center of the dorsals that carries out into the rest of the body, but I will say that the overall paint scheme of this figure does bring out the details very nicely. It looks like there's a lot of dry brushing going on to bring out those very deep textures that are in there as well. Outside of that, there's not too much to say regarding the overall paint scheme of this figure. That is, until we move over to the oxygen destroyer destroyed parts of this figure. I'm not gonna lie, if this figure didn't have these interchangeable parts, I don't think I would have gotten this figure. That's not to say I don't like this figure as is without those additional parts. I think it looks amazing. But what really makes this one stand out to me, I think, is that half skeleton face, all that exposed muscle, that little skeleton tail tip. It is so cool. It is so unique. It's very interesting. And it does seem to be the case that there is a rise of skeletal Godzilla figures in the last couple of years, especially. Pictured here are just a few examples from both Super 7 and Medicom Toy. So as soon as I saw the images of this figure with that half skeletal muscle face and the exposed sections on the body here, I was immediately intrigued and I knew I needed to get my hands on this figure. With these exposed parts, I feel like this is really where James Groman's style was coming into full fruition here. It really elevates this figure, I will say, these additional parts. It gives it a totally different look, which I like a lot. So having those interchangeable parts definitely gives you some options on how to display this figure, which is always nice. So it doesn't have to be exactly as we see in the pictures here. You can have, maybe just the half head with the rest of the body normal, but it is cool to have that sort of ability to change the figure as you like. Taking a closer look at this half exposed face, there are so many gnarly details in it. I have to say, it has this really cool sort of cartoony, I don't know, shading to it. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but obviously it's very much James Groman's style. I love how it's a mixture of bone and muscle, especially as we work our way to the top of the head there. You can see the bits of brain that are exposed. That is, I think, the coolest detail of this whole thing is just seeing an exposed brain. That's so gross. It's so cool. I love the paint style and the specific choice of colors. It really does pop among the skeleton color and, of course, the rest of the charcoal colored Godzilla. And then, of course, the eye does not have a pupil, so we have this blank, ghostly eye there, somewhat reminiscent of the GMK appearance of Godzilla. As we work our way down from the head to the neck into the arm, you can see that this muscle skeleton theme continues throughout. I do like the fact that it's not just skeleton or just muscle. That combination, I think, makes it even more grotesque and gnarly. I love it. So near the throat, shoulder, and forearm section, you kind of have these areas of, I guess, veins or arteries that are kind of a layer above the muscle. The level of detail on this is just amazing, and there's that slight variation in color. It's more pink than the muscle layer below. And this sort of behind angled view gives you a better look at the side of the skeleton here, including the musculature toward the back of the head/neck area, including some bone. This particular area has a lot going on because you have that combination of skin that's ripped, muscle, the veins/arteries, and bone all together. So you have this very clustered area of different textures and colors, which is fantastic. Front facing is just very disturbing to look at. You have, of course, the non-destroyed side, and then that sort of halfway point where the regular skin meets the exposed skeleton. You have a sort of reddish line down the middle. I guess that's sort of that cut off from skin to muscle, which looks really nasty. And rounding out our skeletal features is that final tail tip at the very back end of the figure. It maintains that skeletal appearance, but it doesn't look like there's any sort of musculature that's exposed at that end over there. But I do like that detail of sort of broken skin that's shredded. You can really see on this one side here where that skin is broken. That's really gross, but very cool. And that's essentially it for a sort of in-depth look at the overall figure itself. There's a lot going on with it. I like the options that you have with the interchangeable parts. I will definitely be displaying mine with all those exposed parts attached to the figure. It's so unique. It's really cool. I keep repeating myself throughout the entirety of this video. I guess I do have a soft spot for skeletal versions of Godzilla, or semi-skeletal versions. Let's keep that trend going. I'd like other companies to kind of make more of these because they're really cool. Definitely a nice departure from the usual, traditional looking Godzilla figures. Aside from the very unique style of James Groman in and of itself, these additional exposed, destroyed parts of Godzilla really bring this figure into its own realm. Very different from the other stuff that Mondo has been putting out. I love all their Sofubi releases that they've been doing. Granted, I only have Jet Jaguar and a variant of the Godzilla 84. I was not able to obtain Space Godzilla. I really couldn't at the time, unfortunately. But I'm still keeping an eye out with Mondo's releases because they really, I don't know, they just keep putting out some amazing stuff. At the time of this recording, this figure is sold out on Mondo's website. However, I did see it pop up on Big Bad Toy Store. I do also think it's sold out there. But if you missed this release, I would keep an eye out on Big Bad Toy Store. Every now and then, sometimes an order is canceled and the figure becomes briefly available to take that order. So you might, get lucky with that. I do wonder if they will do variations of this figure in the near future, other colorways, or I don't know what other sort of variations they can do, but there's always the possibility of that as well. I believe this figure is limited to 750 pieces, so it is a relatively small run, but this will be my first piece from James Groman. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I really admire his style and the fact that he's done a Godzilla, and especially this specific Godzilla. I am extremely excited. These are the types of figures that really, get me excited for collecting and reminds me why I love collecting Godzilla figures, and especially when you have such unique and talented artists who come in and do such work like this. It's just amazing. Anyway, I really wanted to make a video on this figure because I like it so much, but I am curious to know what you guys think about it. Do you like this figure? Have you secured a pre-order for it? Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts and what you would like to see if there were more James Groman figures. I will say, I believe I heard somewhere that he is working on that anatomical Heterosofubi toy that I briefly mentioned in my most anticipated figures for 2023, something to that effect. I forget the title of that video, but I'll post it here. Anyway, if you're new to the channel and you like the content, please consider leaving a like, subscribing, and taking a look at my other Godzilla figure content on the channel as well. Lastly, thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.